We'll keep chat there, and then we'll just move this. Fuck. Well, that'll go back up here. Okay. So, as I said, we are going to start the stream off with a GM tier list. The way that these will be ranked is off of their difficulty in the Grandmaster Nightfall playlist. And yeah, I don't really know where else to go with this. So yeah. We do have 5 tiers. We have farmable, which means that like this strike is just so fucking brain dead easy that you don't really need like a coordinated team and meta loadouts to clear it. You just need like decent weapons to get through it. It's also super quick, so you can just farm it for whatever. Easy means that it's self-explanatory. It's easy. Average is that the strike isn't bad. It just has like 1 or 2 areas that kind of suck. Rough is that it either has multiple areas in the strike that suck, or one area that can be a complete just wipe for your team if you're not being careful. And then painful is like this strike is just awful. Like start to finish, it's awful. So we're gonna start with Birthplace of the Vile, and I'm gonna put this in average. The reason I'm putting Birthplace of Vile in the average tier is because it's really not that bad of a strike, if I'm being honest. The only areas I can see people getting tripped up at is the opening plate area and also the final boss if you're not being coordinated. If you're being coordinated, then the final boss should be easy to do. The plate should be easy. This whole strike should be easy if you have a coordinated team. Even if not, just as long as you're aware as to what's going on, the strike is pretty easy. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say regarding Birthplace of the Vile. I think the boss fight's a lot of fun. I think it's one of the GMs in this, or one of the few GMs in this tier list that I actually think has a really fun boss fight to do. So yeah, we're gonna put Birthplace in average. For Exodus Crash, I'm putting this in rough because this is one of the few GMs in this in Destiny 2 that I still like struggle with a pretty good amount at the time, and it's literally just because of the final boss fight. The final boss fight is awful. You need to have like a really coordinated team to get through that boss fight pretty easily. The plate section's not bad. The energy spikes, so like the intro and then the area between the plate spikes and the like pre-boss fight area, that's not bad either. Just the the pikes can just run through your team if you're not being careful. Final boss sucks, I'm being entirely honest. I think I just realized that I've had desktop audio muted this whole time. That's kind of cringe. Yeah. The energy spikes aren't bad, plates aren't bad. It's just the final boss that absolutely sucks. And if your team isn't coordinated, you're gonna get ran through the final boss. But if your team is coordinated, Exodus Crash final boss isn't bad to do. So yeah, we're just gonna put that in the rough category. Fallen Saber, I'm debating putting this in average and easy. And I think I'm gonna put it in easy. The reason I was debating putting it in average was simply for the fact that the War Mine and the bunkers are like the 2 roughest areas in this strike. The War Mine, if your team doesn't cheese it, can be rough to do, and the bunker can also be rough if you're not being aware. But if you're being aware, then bunker's not bad. War Mine isn't bad. And yeah, the final boss is easy as shit. You just go right side, and then once you crack the boss for the second time, like once you get to the second immune phase, you just rotate the left side, kill ads. Once ads are dead, it's just melt the boss. So Fallen Saber isn't bad. It's definitely one of the easiest strikes in the game. Lake of Shadows, farmable. Shouldn't even be a debate. With how fast the strike is and with how easy the strike is, if you have troubles with this strike, then I don't know what to tell you. Especially with season 15, when Lake of Shadows was here, just Gjallarhorn spam everything. Gjallarhorn spam with Aeons, and the strike was even easier than it needed to be. Even with them saying like, hey, we increased the boss health, it doesn't feel like it, especially with Gjallarhorn. So yeah, Lake of Shadows, just another brain dead easy strike, or well, first brain dead easy strike of this tier list. So yeah, Proving Grounds will be the first painful strike. This strike fucking sucks. I'm just gonna be blunt. This strike is so, my god, it sucks. The tank room and the final boss room are painful to do. If you don't have a banner shield in the tank room, you can pretty easily die, because of course you have the tanks, you have the interceptors, you have snipers, you have the enemies in the middle that are just ready to just fuck you over if you're out of position. And then the final boss room. So after the once you get to the final boss, the fireballs was what really was catching a lot of teams off guard. But once you learn, like, hey, you can just go to like the oven in this room, or go to the entrance of the room and just chill there, the fireballs won't hit you. Then the final boss became a little bit easier. It's just managing champs. That can definitely be rough. So, yeah, I'm still putting it in painful though, because the tank area sucks and final boss kind of sucks. Arms dealer is going farmable. Shouldn't be any questions regarding this. It's due to the fact that number one, strike is obviously fast. Number two, the enemies are in fucking Narnia. So like you have like one group of enemies that are like right next to you. You have another one that's like across the fucking map. You have like some enemies that are just like in the middle. And like all enemies are typically like very easy to kill. The biggest threats in this GM are snipers if you're not being careful, champions if you're someone not being careful, and tanks. The final boss isn't even threatening, and we're gonna get to that in a moment. But like the tanks, like as long as your team is playing cautiously, you're not gonna get fucked by the tanks whatsoever. Especially if you're like taking care of the champs very quickly, you're not gonna get fucked whatsoever there. Final boss, if you're doing the elevator cheese, this is arguably one of the easiest fights in the GM playlist, because you can just melt the boss extremely fast. Yeah, I actually don't even know what else to say. This is just one of the easiest strikes. Just use Gjallarhorn with other solar rockets and melt the boss on the elevator, and it's easy claps. So that's going to farmable. Next up, we have Corrupted. If this was like Season 15 or pre-Season 15 Corrupted, this would have made it into painful, no questions asked. But if it's Season 17 Corrupted, which is what I'm going to be ranking it based off of, it's just going to go into rough. Corrupted has slowly become easier over time. And it's not even because we're getting better as players. It's literally just because the game is getting easier. With the 100 resilience changes last season, and the Storm Chaser being brought into the game, I had to remember what the name of the weapon was. With those two being brought into the game, it makes Corrupted so fucking easy to do. Really the only two areas in this strike that I can honestly understand people having difficulties with is the elevator and the double dimension, or the double ogre, whatever you want to call it. And like those are really the only areas you should be having troubles with. The final boss, if you fail the kill immediately, then sure, you can definitely have troubles afterwards. But even then, like as long as you're playing carefully, you don't have to worry about the final boss shitting on your team. So Corrupted is going to be in rough. I don't see a reason to put it in painful. So yeah. Next up, we have Devil's Lair. This is another one of those where I'm considering putting it in either average or easy. It'll probably go into easy. Because once again, obviously this strike is pretty easy. The only areas that teams will probably struggle on is either the intro or the spider tank. And the only reason you would struggle on the intro is obviously because of all the ads. But if your team is really struggling that hard on the intro, you could just kill all the ads leading up to the entrance, or just take the left side path like I said in my guide, and you'd be good to go. And the spider tank, you could definitely struggle there if you're not paying attention to like where the spider tank is shooting, where the brigs are, where snipers are, where champs are. If you're just not paying attention at all, it's definitely easy to get caught off guard. But you know, you have the option of just killing all the ads immediately and then taking on the brigs and the spider tank, or you could just take out spider tank and then take out everything else and not have to worry about this tank just shitting on your team. But yeah, besides that, there's nothing else on the strike that should definitely be that hard. I'm hoping my mic isn't, or I'm hoping that music isn't too loud. We're just gonna lower it a little bit. Anyways, next up we have the Disgraced, and I'm gonna probably this is just like the what's it called? This is just like Devil's Lair, where I just don't know if I should put it in an average or put it in easy. Let me first talk about the Disgraced first. The Disgraced is the main pain point here is the boss, in the sense that there's no cover in the boss room. Or at least there's very little cover in the boss room. And, you know, you can, if you really want to play safe, you can play, like, either towards the bottom of the room or, like, across the room from where Novoda spawns in. And then once she teleports away, you can just immediately jump to her platform and kill ads and stuff like that. Of course, if you're not paying attention, once again, you'll get caught off guard. I feel like that's going to be like the common thing I'm saying with a lot of like easy and average strikes. If you're not paying attention, you're just going to get fucked. But really, like with these strikes, like with Novoda, if you're not paying attention to the final boss and you like damage her enough to spawn in more ads, especially in the second ad spawns with like the unstops and shit like that, like you can definitely get fucked over pretty quickly. So that's definitely a rough spot, but I don't really think there's any other spots that are that difficult. The outside area is easy to do. The intro is easy. And yeah, you know what? This is just gonna go into easy. Just because it's easy. Okay, so next up we have the Glassway. This, in my opinion, in my own personal opinion, is the hardest GM in the game. And I know that a lot of people are probably going to say, like, what about Lightblade? You know, a lot of people believe Lightblade is the hardest GM in the game. We're going to get to that here in a moment, obviously. The reason Glassway is the most difficult and the most painful and the most just annoying GM in the game is because of the boss fight, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's literally just because of the boss fight. The boss fight basically takes the whole, like, you have no cover, and it sort of amplifies it in the sense that you do have, like, the two side rooms, but you can have the mini Hydra go into that room at any time and just fuck your team if you're, you know, not keeping an eye on the Hydra. You then have the big Hydra outside of the room that can shoot into the room if you're not being careful. And then you have champs and just other ads that can run into that room. So even though, yes, you have cover from the big Hydra, which is huge because the big Hydra hurts, especially with the Void Burn, it doesn't really fucking matter in the end because you do have other ads that will rush in and shit on your team if you're not being careful. Glassway is one of those strikes that I would like almost say you need a banner shield for. Either that or arc storm grenades, so you can just shit on everything. The spawn camping ads on like the left portal or right portal, depending on which team, or depending on which side your team chooses to camp out at, is super important. So that way you can just get rid of ads immediately as soon as possible. And yeah, besides that, like the intro area, like the 3 barriers isn't bad. I think the second one can definitely catch some teams off guard because of the close corridors and whatnot. And then for the plates, as long as you're staggering plate progression, you'll be fine. But besides that, like the boss is the boss is pretty much where the difficulty is at. You can get through this entire strike pretty easily, and then once you get to the boss, it's like you gotta lock the fuck in from there. So yeah, that is going to be and painful, and it is actually my choice of the hardest GM in the game. So yeah, next up we have Inside Terminus, and Inside Terminus I'm actually going to put into average. The reason Inside Terminus is going to go into average is mainly because of the middle area and the boss. The middle area, which I'm referring to that as like the arc charge, where you have to deposit 2 arc charges into the things in order to clear the wall for all the headless Vex. I am doing such an amazing job at describing it. I know I am, but the reason I'm saying that part sucks is mainly because of when you slam the first one, ads start spawning immediately. There's not like a grace period where you slam it and then you have time to get back to your spot. So that way you can take care of ads. As soon as you slam the orb, you have ads spawning in immediately. So you got to be careful for that. But besides that, middle part's not too bad. Excuse me. For the boss, the void like trails that are left when they shoot the orb out fucking hurts. Like hurts really badly, to the point to where when I was farming this strike last season to try and get a decent DFA, I died to those a couple times, and you get killed in like less than a second by those if you're like caught in the trail, which it should be pretty easy to avoid because it's just stuck on the ground, and if you jump you'll completely avoid it. But if you run into those and you don't jump in time, you will get fucking ran. You will just get torn apart. But besides that, the boss fight's not bad. The plates areas, or the plates, or whatever, your team can do all 3 at once or one at a time, and you'll be fine. My team chose to do the, or like whenever I would farm it, we kind of just did like a variant of like where we would try to do all 3 at once, and then if ads just started overrunning us, we would obviously just play for our lives at that point. But yeah, besides that, the boss isn't that bad. So I'm gonna put in an average, and we're gonna move on to the Inverted Spire. Inverted Spire I'm a little biased towards because it was my first GM. It was the first GM I ever completed back in season 14. Fuck. And because of the fact that it was my first GM, I have more fond memories of this one. But I think even with that being said, I think most people will say that the Inverted Spire deserves to be infarmable. Because while it's not necessarily as fast as something like a Shadows or Arms Dealer, it's still a pretty quick strike. The boss can be fucking torn apart like there's no tomorrow. There's not an area in this strike that I would say like can catch a team off guard if they're not paying attention. That was the drill at first, but you can stand on the yellow barricades to avoid the dogs on the ground. You can, have one player stay up top and just completely avoid ads. But like there are ways to get around the drill section. And what makes matters even worse now for Inverted Spire, I'm saying worse regarding like difficulty, is that with Bungie introducing the rejoin in season 17 for GMs, if you die in the drill section, if you have a player that dies in the drill section and you can't get the res for whatever reason, they could just all F4 or like quit out of Destiny and then just open Destiny back up and rejoin with all of their heavy and whatnot. So that definitely made the drill a lot easier, and really just other parts, and really every other GM was benefited from that. I'm just not thinking about it, so whatever. But yeah, the drill area definitely was helped a lot thanks to that. And yeah, besides that, there's really no other difficult area in the strike. The boss, like I said, is very easy to bake. You just fucking run in there, fire Gallahorns, throw now storm grenades whenever we get the strike back. You can just throw storm grenades, Gallahorn, Hothead, Thunder Crash, shit on this guy very quickly. So this is going to be infarmable. Next up, we have Lightblade. Lightblade, I have had better experiences in this strike than I feel like most people have. Every time I've seen someone do Lightblade, they always struggle. They always say it's a very difficult strike and whatnot. This is just me. This is my experience in Lightblade. I'm putting this in rough at the highest. And the reason for that is because the main areas I can see where teams will struggle at are the first room, which is like the library room, the first like library room. The ships, or like that ship section, just like the entirety of it. Like where you dunk the void orbs and then go through the bridges and all that stuff. And then the final boss. Those are like the three main areas that I can see people struggling with. For the library room, you just have to play very careful. There's no like easy like cut corners way. You just have to play careful in the library room. For the ship section, you can get off the ship early in both the void charge area and the bridges area, so that way you can take care of ads, or you can just either invis your team with Omnioculus Hunter, or if you're soloing the strike like a fucking mad lad, you could just do the sit emochis into like one of these little like thorns in the side of the ship, and just make sure your head is covered by it and no ad will notice you're there, and you'll get through the ship section extremely easy. The final boss, which is another area where people would struggle out in this strike, is super easy, or I don't want to say super easy, but it's a lot easier when you do the like kite strategy. What I mean by that is where like, let me just pull up my guide for this talking about here. Yeah, so like you would jump on this middle platform, you'd wait for the boss to jump up, and then you would jump to the side here. And even though like if you do it fast like I did there, the boss can still jump towards you, or like can still shoot at you. But if you do it like I do here, where the boss like jumps over and whatnot, then the boss is just going to repeatedly jump back and forth between platforms, and they're not going to shoot at you. They're not going to slam you. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to be stun locked in that shit. And that makes the boss fight so fucking easy. Of course, when the champs spawn, you can't really do that because you have to take care of champs, but just be careful of the boss, be careful of ads, and then once champs are dead, you just get back to it. And that's just, it just makes the Lightblade super easy. So I'm going to put Lightblade in rough. So we have two more strikes. Scarlet Keep, I'm putting in painful. Scarlet Keep is one of those strikes to where I don't want to say it's as relentless as like the Glassway. If you have a very coordinated team, you can get through the final boss pretty easily. And then the elevator is like the other pain part. But besides that, like the rest of the strike is not bad, I would say. Elevators can be rough if you're not managing ads good. If you do the cheese, the emote cheese, where you like sit into one of those like 3 walls on the elevator, ads won't notice you, which is nice. And yeah, for the final boss, as long as your team is keeping up with ads, and as long as your team is just not getting shit on by ads, you'll be fine. I know that there is a cheese in the final boss for this strike, but I think it's actually more detrimental than it is helpful. Because I just feel like it's easier to get shit on in the cheese, and I feel like it's harder to do damage. Maybe that's just me. The first time I did the strike, I actually cheesed it. But I've done this strike without the cheese before, and I've just had an easier time without the cheese. Maybe that's just me. But Scarlet Keep, painful. Next up, and finally, we have Warden of Nothing. And it's going into easy. The reason it's going into easy is there's not really an area in this strike that I find painful or that I find difficult. I know a lot of people, or not necessarily a lot, but a decent amount of people find the Prison of Elders section rough. But I think as long as you are just like being careful of ads, keeping up with ads, and yeah, just not getting shit on once again, then Prison of Elder part shouldn't be bad. It should be pretty easy to do. Boss Bank is obviously fucking super easy. Especially now you can just do like Galahorn and rockets and linears and just fucking watch the boss fall over. And yeah, everywhere else in the strike is just super fucking easy. There's really not a single part in this strike that I think is like difficult whatsoever. So yeah, maybe that's just me. Maybe I once again have just had a very easy experience in this strike. But yeah, that is my GM tier list. For farmable, we have League of Shadows, Arms Dealer, Inverted Spire. For easy, we have Fallen Saber, Devil's Lair, Disgraced, and Warden of Nothing. For average, we have Birthplace of Vile and the Inside Terminus. For rough, we have Exodus Crash, Corrupted, and Lightblade. And then for painful, we have Glassway, Proving Grounds, and Scarlet Keep. With the easiest GM, in my opinion, being like if Shadows are the hardest, being Glassway. If you found this video enjoyable, then be sure to drop a like and comment down below what other tier lists I should do or what other content I should do. Destiny content is a little dry right now, and when I say a little, I mean it's very fucking dry. But we are very close to the new season. We're about like 2 weeks away, and of course, I'm going to be posting a bunch of content throughout the season. So if you want to stay in tune, if you want to stay updated with that content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, that's about it. All my socials will also be linked in the description below. And hey, if you want to pull up to the stream, which is where this shit was recorded, then I stream right here on YouTube. I try to stream every weekday. Truth is, I stream really Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. At around like 3 to 7 p.m. That's like around where I start. I'm trying to get more consistent, so my bad. But yeah, anyways, that wraps it up. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're here live and you just wanted to tune in for this, thank you so much for tuning in. And that's it. I'm SniperKH, and I'm out. Good luck with gaming.